able to walk. And the cause of all this was that he had originally been a light-powered ability user. During a battle in order to save the trapped Qi Xiaodao, he was unfortunately wounded in both legs and infected with the dark ability. The two supernatural abilities were inherently in conflict, restraining each other. Since being injured, he could only stay at the base and couldn't go out on missions. The four of them should have gone to the Kyoto base long ago. Big brother and second brother's families were there, but they stayed at the Chaoyang base for his sake. He was unwilling to accept it. In the end, heaven favors the diligent. He slowly began to tap into dark elements and awakened a dark-type ability. But the imbalance between the two abilities still meant he couldn't walk like a normal person. Yi Luonan sat under the eaves, thinking about how he could meet the woman the brothers so longed for in their hearts. Qi Xiaodao watched his dazed eldest brother and second brother. Now there was a third brother too. He scratched the back of his head. How come, after hearing him mention Xiaoming Jia, the third brother had started spacing out as well? Third brother, do you want to go back to your room to rest? Shall I walk you back? Qi Xiaodao didn't understand and didn't ask. Anyway, the three of them were all smarter than him. Let those clever people worry about troublesome matters. Okay. Yi Luonan came back to himself when he heard Qi Xiaodao. The reason he had been sitting there so long was to fish for information. Now he returned to the living room sofa. Qi Xiaodao walked behind Yi Luonan and pushed the wheelchair. That chair had been scavenged by Big Brother from the ruins of the hospital, and repaired with some spare parts supplemented using the gene-type ability. It just wasn't as easy to use as before the end of the world. So third brother couldn't propel it himself and needed someone to push hard from behind. Xiaodao, you spoke so highly of your sister Xiaoming, and she gave me those few jars of purified cleansing water. I already drank that water. It really does relieve the pain in my leg quite effectively. Yi Luonan thought for a moment, then said it after some consideration. Third brother, how is that water? Does it really ease your pain? After Yi Luonan entered the room, Zhang Hao heard the voice and without thinking further, was very happy to hear Yi Luonan speak and asked eagerly. Yes, second brother. Very helpful. I drank a small half-cup last night and slept well, not woken by pain again. Yi Luonan looked at his elder and second brothers, who had returned to normal, and did not hide anything. Then keep drinking it. If it hurts during the day, have some more. If that's not enough, we can use points or supplies to trade with Xiaoming for more. As long as it can cure you, nothing else matters. Tong Guanyu was also very happy when she heard Yi Luonan's words, smiling as she said that material points didn't matter. As long as it could ease third brother's pain a little, it was worth it. At worst they'd just have a few more tasks, and besides they'd been troubled about not having a legitimate way to give Xiaoming points. It was like giving a pillow to someone who's nodding off, killing two birds with one stone. Yi Luonan looked at the three brothers. It was impossible not to be moved, only he was so moved he couldn't put it into words. Although he was injured while saving fourth younger brother, saving people was something he did willingly and it was his body's natural reaction. Besides, after rescuing someone, being appreciated by them is gratifying. Seeing fourth younger brother safe and sound made him very happy. At least he was still alive. If he hadn't saved him then, fourth younger brother might already be gone. Even if he truly could never stand again, he would trade his legs for fourth younger brother's life. He felt it would be worth it. Moreover, he benefited from misfortune and awakened a dark-type ability, so his legs were not without hope. As long as his two types of powers reached a balance point, he can still get back up. It's only a matter of time. Big brother, second brother, fourth brother. After drinking the purified water you brought back last night, I not only slept well. Also, I feel like my ability has grown somewhat slightly, but I'm sure it has. If Ding Xiaoming were here, she would be very surprised. Yi Luonan's perception is keen. He wasn't lying. What he drank was purified water mixed with Lingquan water. The spirit spring water was re-exchanged by Ding Xiaoming after upgrading her space to the 5th rank. After the upgrade, the spirit spring water can heal internal injuries and also restore half of one's supernatural power. Yi Luonan's leg had been injured because his dark-type power was lower ranked than the light-type, and the two opposing powers aggravated the wound. After drinking the spirit spring water, his injury was healed while his supernatural power was restored. It must be said that Yi Luonan was very lucky. Such medicine would not exist in the current apocalypse. Moreover, there is no such medical technique either. If combined with Ding Xiaoming's healing skill, Yi Luonan's recovery would be even easier. Chapter 44 Market. Really? Third brother. This water works so well. Xiaoming is such a nice person. I'll go find her right now and ask if she has any left. See if she'll give me some more. I can trade things with her or buy it with points, and if that doesn't work, I'll work for her like a beast of burden. She's so kind, she definitely will agree. Third brother, trust me. Xiaoming is really a very good person. He spoke as he prepared to go out. When Qi Xiaodao heard Yi Luonan say that, he was overjoyed. He even spoke a little incoherently. Really, it was wonderful third brother could be like before. Yi Luonan looked at the excited Qi Xiaodao. He always felt deeply guilty in his heart, and he understood everything. He hadn't lied. After drinking the purifying water, he really no longer woke up from sleep because of the pain, and upon waking in the morning he indeed felt the restoration of his body's abnormal abilities. Although faint and barely noticeable, he felt it. This was also the main reason he wanted to meet Ding Xiaoming even more. He was very curious what a woman who had awakened such a powerful ability would be like. Was she really as beautiful as Qi Xiaodao had said? Was she truly completely different from the women he had known and interacted with before? This woman stirred a great curiosity in him. They say curiosity killed the cat. This rang especially true for Ye Luonan in the days after he fell in love with Ding Xiaoming. Xiaodao, don't be anxious. I'm thinking that we've gained such a great favor from someone, and we still owe them. Shouldn't we invite them to a meal to show our thanks? Vegetables and fruit are scarce now. How about we go to the market and take a look? Yi Luonan stopped Qi Xiaodao from going to find Ding Xiaoming. He told him to go get someone instead. How would Qi then have any chance to see her? Tong Guanyue watched Yi Luonan speak. Qi Xiaodao and Zhang Hao might have thought nothing of it, but for Tong Guanyue, who was equally scheming and deep, he sensed something different. Surprised as he looked at Yi Luonan, the third brother seemed very proactive, even a little eager, but it didn't matter. He trusted his brothers completely. Putting aside Yi Luonan's motives, he was looking forward to seeing Ding Xiaoming again. He missed Xiaoming's sister. Missed her a little impatiently. Okay. Fourth brother, you stay home with Luonan and clean the kitchen. Second brother and I will go to the market to buy some things. When we get back, you can go invite Xiaoming over. Second brother and I will cook ourselves, and everyone will have a proper meal together. Besides, the points from the previous task haven't been transferred to her yet. When she comes, we'll give them to her together. After hearing this, Tong Guanyue quickly made arrangements. He missed her. Truly missed her very, very much. Zhang Hao looked at the three of them. Seeing Yi Luonan's urgency, he was somewhat puzzled. He wasn't completely naive either, and after all, they were his brothers. How could he not understand? Usually the eldest and the third brother did the thinking. He just didn't like to overthink things. He glanced at his big brother, who spoke with the corners of his mouth lifted and eyes full of an uncontrollable smile. He didn't argue. Since big brother has already made the arrangements, he should just follow them. At the center of the 4 sectors of the base, in a plaza-like area, stands the office building. Surrounding the office building is where the base market is located. A ring of small bungalows surrounds it, each room converted into a small shop of about 5 square meters. The ownership of these small shops belongs to the base. The rent collected from each shop goes to the base, and is used as operating funds for daily expenses. The base's management will be handled by each squad, assigning one manager to be added to the base to manage it together. The Wild Wolf squad currently has nominated Ye Luonan to participate in the base's management team. There are about 70 small shops together. Not everyone has the ability to rent a shop. On top of that, leaving a shop empty is a loss, and not everyone has the means or goods to take out and sell or trade. If you have supplies, you must have the ability to keep them safe, and even if you can keep them safe, you need people above you so others won't cause trouble. It must be said that, no matter where in the world you go, power and influence are needed everywhere. The Wild Wolf squad also has a shop of their own here. Every time Tong Guanyue and the others return from a mission, or when they get supplies they don't need but that are very useful, they also register them and send them to the shop for sale or exchange. The shop's caretaker is a man named Lei Chan, who was also once an outstanding member of the team with exceptional abilities. Unfortunately, during one mission he injured a leg and lost an eye, so Tong Guanyue assigned him to watch the shop. If not for that, he might have long since been divorced by his wife and master, because with this job he can reliably receive 300 points each month. That was enough to keep him from being cast off, and to maintain his position as the family's master husband. Lei Chan watched Tong Guanyue and Zhang Hao walking over from afar, and hurriedly propped himself up on his cane to stand and wait. Why are you standing? We're not strangers. Sit down. How's business at the shop lately? Tong Guanyue and the others also saw Lei Chen's movements. Zhang Hao quickly walked over and pushed him back down into the chair. Second young master, business at the shop is very good. The people in the base see the team's emblem on the signboard, and they all know it's our place. Our shop treats everyone fairly. We have a wide selection of goods, good quality, and reasonable prices. That's why people like coming here. Lei Chen smiled and responded to Zhang Hao. Has anyone come to cause trouble at the shop lately? Have you been bullied? In the post-apocalyptic world, a shop stocked with all kinds of supplies but watched over by only one disabled person attracted troublemakers one after another at first. In the end, they still hung up the team's emblem, and second sat in the shop for half a month before people gradually stopped daring to cause trouble. But they were out for about 10 days. The base often had people seeking refuge, and nearby bases would pass through on missions and stop by the base to rest and resupply. With new arrivals, disturbances are inevitable now and then. Young master, I'm fine. Someone caused a ruckus once in the meantime, but third arranged for the team's people to come over, and the office patrols would occasionally drop by to lend support. The troublemakers were arrested, beaten in public, and made to pay for the damages. After that, no one caused any more trouble. Lei Chun looked at Tong Guanyue with deep gratitude. If the young master hadn't given him this job back then, he didn't know where he'd be now. Whenever the first and second young masters and the others came by, they always checked on him and even sent him back with some supplies. At those times his family would also look up to him, and he felt very satisfied. Just as the three of them were happily talking, Zhang Hao heard voices from the neighboring shop. Someone had bought something and seemed to have been cheated, and there was an argument. This was nothing unusual. In the end times there were many scams, and shops here didn't do business as honestly as before the apocalypse. Many shops even made a practice of deliberately cheating people. Only one side of the argument sounded very familiar. It sounded a bit like Xiaoming's voice. Chapter 45 Being Framed. Ding Xiaoming looked at the shop owner in front of her. Although she had a lot of supplies, she didn't want to compensate. Why should I pay? I was just passing by your shop. The item was something you yourself knocked to the ground. Does that mean people can't walk by the entrance to your shop? Ding Xiaoming's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. She thought that if her voice were quieter, people would assume she was afraid. She had just been passing by the shop when the shopkeeper turned around and knocked a can off his shelf, smashing it on the floor. He turned and saw her passing by the shop and tried to extort her. No way. Although she had plenty of cans in her space and could easily take one out to settle the matter, she believed that if she dared to do that, the shopkeeper would only grow bolder, or others on the street who saw it would think she was easy to bully and copy his behavior. If that happened, she figured she'd never feel like coming to this market again. She had been staying at home, but her mind kept returning to those three people. Whatever she did, she thought of them and wanted to share things with them. She felt this couldn't go on, so she slung on a bag and went out to clear her head. She hadn't expected to run into something like this. To be honest, she was a little scared. She was alone, and she had no offensive abilities and no defensive powers. Ideally, the matter should have been downplayed, but the shopkeeper was so unreasonable that they actually demanded she pay 50 points in compensation. Although canned food was rare in the apocalypse, she wasn't lacking. As for fresh fruit, her space had plenty. Why should I? Just because this can was broken by you. Broken by me? I was walking in the middle of the road and didn't touch your shop's cabinets, and there are wooden boards blocking that side of the cabinets. This can fell right by your feet. How is that my fault? Ding Xiaoming spoke with clear logic and quick, articulate words. Some of the other passers-by immediately stepped aside, afraid of being extorted by the shopkeeper. Others just stood by watching the commotion. There were even one or two well-meaning people pointing at the shop owner and saying, "You shopkeeper are being completely unreasonable. The person didn't even touch your counter. It doesn't matter where this can was damaged, I say you broke it, so you did. If you don't pay, I'll have the patrol team arrest you. You'd better be sensible and compensate. My family shop is with the 3 Yuan squad. See the mark above the shop? Our squad has someone at the base administration. If the patrol catches you later, it won't be just 1 can as compensation. You look young. I advise you to pay up now, or it won't be pleasant inside." Qitong was also panicking inside. He knew very well that he had only accidentally knocked the can to the floor. But he's just a laborer. He couldn't afford the 5 points for that 1 can. If his wife found out that he hadn't done his job properly and had to pay, she'd be furious. If he went back, he'd probably get whipped. Not to mention he likely shouldn't expect any water for a while. He just heard a bang, and the moment he saw the can fall over, his heart skipped a beat too. There was no choice, he had to extort someone. Just then he spotted a little girl passing by on the road, alone, dressed much better than the people around. She was clean from head to toe, which meant at least she wasn't short on water. If he extorted her, he wasn't sure she could or would compensate him. When they heard the shopkeeper say it was the Sanyuan squad, the person who had been helping to speak up beside him no longer dared to say anything. The Sanyuan squad is basically a gang of thugs. Everyone in it has taken names from mahjong tiles. The squad's leaders are 2 brothers, both 3rd-tier psychics, called Big Sanyuan and Little Sanyuan. Perhaps before the apocalypse they were mahjong enthusiasts, so everyone who joins the squad has to change their name. The members of this squad are usually very arrogant and overbearing, especially fond of bullying lower-tier psychics. Because they share the same hobby, they've absorbed many fans from the Sparrow realm into the team. They spend all their time in the base instead of going out on missions, cowardly and life-loving, so they've set up many gambling spots inside the base. Each of the A, B, C, and D districts has one of their stalls. Gambling is something that, no matter the era or the world, seems to thrive. but it really depends on who's dealing and what's on the table. Miss, why don't you just pay up? The 3-1 squad is not to be messed with. They're all local thugs and ruffians. Someone kind-hearted still leaned in and quietly said to Ding Xiaoming. Ding Xiaoming looked at the shopkeeper when he mentioned that their 3-yuan team had people in the base management, then glanced at the previously helpful bystanders, who had gone silent. She understood in her heart that they had run into someone powerful and unreasonable, although she believed Tong Guanyue and the others would definitely have a way to handle it. But thinking that fewer troubles are better than more, she wasn't someone who liked to bother others. Just as she was preparing to spend money to avert the disaster, a voice came from behind, cold and very familiar. Since that's the case, have the patrol come over. Jiang Hao, watching Tong Guanyue talk with Lei Chan and about to check whether the shop was missing any goods, heard commotion from the neighboring store. It was the voice he'd thought of countless times over the past 3 days. The tone suggested they'd run into trouble. He didn't notify Tong Guanyue. Such a perfect chance for a hero to save a beauty, how could he miss it? Big brother is a brother, that's true, but love is precious. For this small matter it's better not to trouble a brother. Hearing the voice, he immediately rose and headed toward the neighboring shop, not even giving Tong Guanyue a word of warning. Inside, he indeed saw the person he'd been thinking of day and night, and she was truly in trouble, judging by the discussions of the people nearby. He probably understood where things came from, so he told the patrol team to come over. He didn't care about right or wrong. In any case, if Xiaoming said it wasn't her touch, then it wasn't her. The other party must be at fault. Even if it was her who touched it, it was just a can. Xiaoming, don't be afraid. I'm here, it's fine. Let him call people over. After speaking, Jiang Hao walked to Ding Xiaoming's side and stood there holding her hand. He had wanted to do this for a long time. When he saw Xiaoming take her eldest brother's hand first, he decided to do it too. But he was afraid of startling the one he loved. Later, seeing Qi Xiaodao with his head covered, pulling Xiaoming's hand, he became even more eager. Ding Xiaoming looked at the person coming over and taking her hand. She hadn't wanted to trouble them, but she still ran into it. She didn't resist. These 3 days had been enough for her to think it through. She felt happy in her heart and could no longer let go of these 3 people. Someone nearby who recognized the man holding the girl's hand as Jiang Hao also began to gloat and shouted, "Call the patrol!" Others who recognized Jiang Hao quietly told the people next to them, "See that? That's the second young master of the Wild Wolf team. He just took the girl's hand when he came over. Looks like this girl must be the second young master's wife." Some busybodies even went over and pulled a nearby ability user, who was wearing a patrol armband, closer. Tong Guanyue watched the second brother leave and felt a bit puzzled. When they arrived, they had all seen that many people were gathered around the nearby shops. But neither of them liked joining in for the sake of excitement, so they didn't pay attention. This time the second child squeezed into the lively spot nearby. Tong Guanyue was a bit worried something might be wrong, greeted Lei Chan and followed. Chapter 46. So it's decided like this? Jiang Hao didn't even look at the shopkeeper. He felt delighted inside. Xiaoming's hands were so small and soft. No wonder Big Brother's eyes were practically sparkling that day. Jiang Hao, affection plus. Loyalty plus. Total friendliness 100. Affection 100 plus. Loyalty 100 plus. Ding Xiaoming listened to the voice of the spatial attribute values plus? What the hell is that? And looked at the person whose palm was sweating. She couldn't help but smile happily. The corners of her mouth lifted slightly, and a radiant smile bloomed on her face, which had grown rosy after some time of care. Her eyes curved into a playful arc, clear and bright, dazzling and charming like 2 sparkling stars. Her laughter was like the morning bird song, clear and beautiful, rippling through the air, full of vitality and life. Jiang Hao looked at the girl smiling happily before him. Her smile was warm and natural, as comforting as the spring sunshine before the end of the world, illuminating his entire inner world and making him involuntarily feel happy and joyful. When Tong Guanyue came in, this was the scene he saw. The girl he loved laughing heartily. The brother he worried about, however, was holding the hand of the woman he loved, his face full of infatuation. At this moment he was filled with regret. How could he have such a brazen, shameless brother? When he squeezed in, he heard the whole story as well. He didn't want some lovesick fool to take sole credit for the hero saves beauty act. Tong Guanyue strode straight toward Ding Xiaoming and more domineeringly, wrapped his arm around her waist. He looked at Ding Xiaoming with deep feeling, his voice resonant and refreshing, low and powerful as he whispered in her ear. "Xiaoming, not scared, right? How did you come out? Aren't you going to look for us?" Hearing the chiding voice by her ear, Ding Xiaoming felt her ears tingle. Instinctively her shoulders hunched and she turned her head to look at the newcomer. Unexpectedly, before Tong Guanyue's head had even moved away, their lips met without any warning. For a moment both stood stunned. The people beside them watched the handsome guy and pretty girl before them, one lowering his head, the other seeming to tilt hers up in a matching kiss. Jiang Hao, watching from the side, felt a twinge of regret now. What kind of big brother was this? He probably came the whole way to steal someone. He came up and put his arm around Xiaoming's waist, and now in broad daylight kissed her. It made Jiang Hao gnash his back teeth in fury. Looks like that big brother is out of the question. Does anyone know how to deal with the big brother? Please advise. I'm waiting online, it's pretty urgent. After a moment, Ding Xiaoming finally came to her senses and tried to pull away, but the hand at her waist tightened slightly and drew her firmly into his embrace. He was even not content with the light touch on her lips. Turning passive into active, he kissed his beloved's mouth for a while before letting go. Such a good opportunity, how could Tong Guanyue possibly pass it up? If they weren't on the street, he certainly wouldn't have stopped at just a light taste. Finally released, Ding Xiaoming had still been a bit angry and ashamed before, but now she only felt shy. The person in front of her was the one she loved, so she couldn't even bring herself to be angrily ashamed. Xiaoming, you must take responsibility for me. Everyone on the street saw that. You were just so forward with me. If you don't make good on this, I won't be able to marry. Tong Guanyue looked at the bashful girl and, emboldened, murmured in her ear. In his heart he wanted to laugh to the sky. Xiaoming was just too cute. He had finally kissed someone, and now he had a perfectly legitimate reason to court her. Ding Xiaoming felt a surge of annoyance. How could he be like this? He had clearly taken all the advantage, yet acted as if he were the one who'd suffered. Just as he was about to fire back, he heard a voice from the crowd behind him. The patrol's here, clear the way. The shopkeeper who had just been so arrogant had already been scared stiff when Jiang Hao arrived. He sat in his chair, too frightened to make a sound. To his surprise, even the eldest son of the Wild Wolf Squad had come from behind, and he was closer than he'd imagined with the girl he thought would be easy to bully. What's going on? Who is it? Who's causing trouble? The patroller who had rushed over had just heard someone making a scene at the Sanyuan team's shop. He hadn't heard the whole story before running over. He was feeling pleased, thinking he'd scored something today. Whenever there was trouble at the Sanyuan team's shop, whoever it was would be seized first, and then there would always be some gain afterward. He wasn't worried at all. The Sanyuan team generally went after people without connections, and he hadn't offended anyone, so he simply said it was a complaint from the Sanyuan team. They just go around arresting people. Once they've pushed the responsibility off, that's enough. By then, the Sanyuan squad will have gotten their cut and will share a bit with them. This isn't the first time they've done this. Sometimes those who are arrested will give them some benefits to make their time in jail more comfortable. Watching the patrol team arrive, some of the onlookers nearby who recognized them smothered laughs and hid to watch the spectacle. This is getting interesting. The newcomer seems to have some connection to the Sanyuan team. Jiang Hao was already feeling pent up and agitated, as if a fire inside him couldn't be extinguished. If that person weren't his older brother, he would probably already have 100 ways to deal with him, but of course that person just happened to be his elder brother. Sigh, it's awful having an older brother who competes for favor with you. There was a smoldering anger inside that hadn't been released when they heard the patrol officer's voice. From the tone it sounded like he wanted to take their side. A wave of relief washed over him. Fortunately they had run into them today, otherwise Xiaoming would likely have suffered. When the patrol team reached them he went completely cold. It's me, so what? You're accusing us of causing trouble without asking any questions? Which unit are you from? Wang San looked at the man speaking in front of him and suddenly broke out in a cold sweat in the heat of the midday sun. Say, second young master, it's you. I didn't say you were causing trouble. It's just, someone said there's someone here scamming people, so I just came over to take a look. Speaking tremblingly, Wang San immediately turned to the shopkeeper of the Sanyuan team and said, What's going on? Are you trying to extort people? No. A misunderstanding. Just now I accidentally broke something in the shop and didn't notice. I mistook this young lady. After the recent events, Qi Tong had calmed down and immediately admitted his mistake. The Wild Wolf team was not to be trifled with, and the eldest young master and second young master were even less so. Looking at the young lady being held by the eldest young master and led by the second young master, he muttered in his heart, My goodness, with that background, why are you out shopping alone? You should have said so earlier. Don't act like you're being extorted. What are you eyeing? Say it. Can't I just refuse to take your points? A misunderstanding? You call it a misunderstanding and that's that? Is my wife someone you can misunderstand? She's not lacking that little bit of supplies from you, you tin can. Jiang Hao thought, now we've kissed, we've cuddled, and I even held her hand, it's still not worth it. I might as well while I can cement the reputation. That should mean Xiaoming can't back out now, right? Big brother intends for Xiaoming to take responsibility, and I can address her directly as my wife, should be fine. Ding Xiaoming felt she must have skipped checking the almanac before leaving today. What's wrong with these two? Do they not care about their reputations anymore? Are they openly deciding this? Although she really did think the same thing, shouldn't they at least ask her? Even if it's just for appearances, is it settled like this without letting her consider it? Chapter 47 Forced Marriage. Hearing Zhang Hao's words, the patrolman and Qitong from the Sanyuan squadron's shop felt extremely aggrieved. The wives of eldest young master and second young master, my great-aunt. The patrolman felt torn. He definitely couldn't offend the eldest or second young master. After weighing the pros and cons, he could only take his grievance out on Qitong. That would offend the Sanyuan squad. With the many collaborations we've had before, I could still explain. If by any chance I offend these two from the Wild Wolf squad, I'll lose this patrol job, and I'm afraid I won't be able to take on office assignments in the future either. Because I used to lord it around at home with the patrol team identity, I was also highly regarded. If I really lose this job, those other masters' husbands probably won't treat me well going forward. 7 Bamboo, you can't get me into trouble. I've helped you so many times before. The people you've angered this time I can't offend, so you'll just have to deal with it yourself. Hearing what the patroller said and seeing Urshao's darkened face, Qitong also understood that this time he was probably doomed. After thinking it over, Qitong steeled himself, rushed up to Ding Xiaoming, then knelt down and wept bitterly as he said, "Miss, it was I who was blind. I let lard cloud my judgment. I was bewitched and shouldn't have cheated you. I really had no choice. I guard the shop here every day and only earn 200 points a month, and there's a newborn baby at home. You know newborns are rare now. To raise a child, I can't afford to lose this nor can I afford to lose this job. I'm really not trying to blackmail you. Please spare me this once. I won't dare do it again. I won't do this anymore." Qiutong pleaded with Ding Xiaoming with tears and snot, well aware that for this matter, begging the eldest or second young master wouldn't work as well as begging this girl. Ding Xiaoming, who had originally been very annoyed with him, upon hearing what he said, she couldn't help feeling a trace of pity, not because she was overly saintly, but because she knew all too well how rare it was for a newborn to exist in this world. Perhaps the anomalous virus had altered human biology, making conception especially difficult, and carrying a pregnancy to term was even rarer, on the order of 1 in 1,000. The other party was only trying to scam her. Their character was questionable, but not utterly unforgivable. Your child. Ding Xiaoming was no longer a newbie now. She had gained a certain understanding of this place, though she still didn't know exactly what the rules were. After a child is born, the name of the child's biological father will appear more prominently on the wife's body than before, and a paternity test is not needed. Paternity test can't be done now either. Yes, it's a girl, very cute. After a hard day's work, when I go back and hold her, she smiles at me. When Qitong talked about his newborn daughter, he became especially happy. Thinking of his daughter's toothless smile, he couldn't help but smile himself. Facing this Qitong, Ding Xiaoming couldn't bring herself to be cruel. How about, forget it? Ding Xiaoming tugged at Zhang Hao's hand, her big eyes blinking at him, a hint of pleading in her gaze. Zhang Hao looked at Ding Xiaoming like this and was truly charmed for a moment. He couldn't help reaching out and gently touching the top of her head. His thumb couldn't help brushing Ding Xiaoming's eyelid. Seeing that Zhang Hao had no reaction, Ding Xiaoming gently shook his hand again. Fine, suit yourself. Zhang Hao, shaken awake from the fluttering look he had just received, let go as Ding Xiaoming coquettishly pulled her hand away again. Since hearing Ding Xiaoming's words, Qitong had been holding his breath, waiting for second young master's reply. Thank you, miss. Thank you, eldest young master and second young master. I will never do such a shameless thing again. Hearing Qitong's words, Ding Xiaoming felt relieved. If this person could truly reform, that would be good. Tong Guanyue was almost overflowing with jealousy now, although he had kissed his beloved and was still holding her waist. But he also really wanted Xiaoming to act spoiled with him. That would surely feel very nice. With a trace of grievance in his heart, Tong Guanyue's gaze toward Zhang Hao had grown a little dark. This guy is just so annoying. Zhang Hao, looking at the look his older brother sent over, showed no sign of panic. Instead he returned a smug look that only Tong Guanyue understood. Ding Xiaoming didn't notice the secret struggle between the two. She glanced at the people on both sides, curious how the two of them ended up here. Brother Tong, second brother Zhang, what are you doing at the market too? Where's Xiao Dao? Hearing Ding Xiaoming's voice, the two of them once again stood on the same front. Xiaoming, look, you always call Xiao Dao by his name. You just kissed him, everyone saw. Isn't it a bit distant to keep calling him that? Tong Guanyue said, licking her lips and sounding aggrieved. Zhang Hao cursed inwardly. How old are they, playing the aggrieved, pitiful face like that? But on the surface he coldly agreed. Xiaoming, from now on call me Brother Hao. Everyone just heard it. You are my wife. Although she didn't put on an aggrieved expression like Tong Guanyue, those deep eyes stared fixedly at Ding Xiaoming. Hearing what the two had said, Ding Xiaoming's cheeks flushed instantly. She also remembered the kiss with Tong Guanyue just now in front of everyone. And Zhang Hao's address of wife. I never agreed to you. That was a misunderstanding just now. I wasn't trying to help you out. I only said that, right? Hearing Ding Xiaoming's words, Tong Guanyue and Zhang Hao lost their composure. Their two pairs of plaintive eyes stared at her, and they didn't say a word. The hurt in their gazes was glaringly obvious. For a moment, Ding Xiaoming didn't know what to do, and in the end could only admit defeat. These two were just too sly. About that matter with the mistress, can we think it over a bit more? How? Ding Xiaoming tentatively called out softly. Would the two who finally had nicknames let Ding Xiaoming off so easily? The answer was definitely no. The two who kept pushing their luck glanced at each other and pressed again. Xiaoming, are you trying to be irresponsible? Xiaoming, how long will you think it over? See. Could 1 month be okay? Ding Xiaoming thought she had to be married by 22, and she must have 4 husbands. Now there were only 5 months left. Marriage was inevitable, but every girl still very much looked forward to the ritual. Was she suddenly going to agree just because of 2 sentences? Although she was also very attracted to them, the sense of ceremony was a must. 3 days, Xiaoming, a month is too long. Tong Guanyue thought a month? That would still be too long. No, he couldn't wait. Zhang Hao's cold eyes also showed that the time would be too long. In his heart he had long been wildly fond of Qing. But Ding Xiaoming couldn't see it. Well, I can't just decide based on you all casually saying it. Ding Xiaoming puffed out her cheeks in a huff. Who does that? Marriage, for heaven's sake, how could she agree so lightly? Although the times have changed and women now marry men, she still wanted to be a little spoiled. Hearing Ding Xiaoming's words and looking at the lover who looked as angry as a pufferfish, Tong Guanyue instantly understood what Ding Xiaoming wanted. Chapter 48 First Meeting with Yi Luonan. Ding Xiaoming, who was being forced into marriage, decided not to get hung up on the issue. She'd figured it out. The two of them were clearly in cahoots. How, what are you two planning to do at the market? Tong Guanyue now remembered that they had gone out to buy groceries. Inviting Ding Xiaoming over for a meal was mainly an excuse to see the one they loved. She never expected to run into him here, and because of the earlier interruption, she forgot the two people waiting at home. I missed you, so I came to the market to buy a few things. Will you come to my place for a meal? Be gracious. Listening to that tone and looking at Tong Guanyue now, Ding Xiaoming realized he was very different from the man she met the first time. If she had known then what kind of person Tong Guanyue was, she might not have walked over to them with a water bottle on the first day of the mission. Maybe it was because she knew him well enough, understood him. So this kind of Tong Guanyue, the Tong Guanyue who behaved like this only in front of her own people, didn't provoke much aversion in Ding Xiaoming's heart. She found that she had changed. When her parents were alive, she was an only child, the pampered daughter doted on by her parents. But later, running the company on her own made her become mature, calm, and shed the image of a spoiled child. When she was transported to the apocalypse, because she had the backing of space-stored supplies, she wasn't worried about not having enough food or warm clothes. Nevertheless, at first she was still extremely cautious about the environment here. Now, perhaps with these two by her side, with their loyalty and affection, she seemed to have turned back into the delicate child she had been when her parents were still alive. How long had it been since she had acted coquettish toward Zhang Hao like that? Ding Xiaoming wondered. When Tong Guanyue finished speaking, she had expected a response from Xiaoming, only to find her lost in thought. Xiaoming, what's wrong? Ding Xiaoming snapped out of her memories at Tong Guanyue's question, and saw Zhang Hao looking worried. I'm fine. I was just thinking about visiting friends, which made me happy. Ding Xiaoming said happily. The two of them stopped pressing her about what she had been thinking. After a while, they naturally understood. Although reluctant to let go of Ding Xiaoming, it would be inconvenient to keep holding and cuddling while continuing to shop, so the two could only shrug and give up the idea of staying entwined. Although this place was called a market, there really weren't many stalls. Supplies in the post-apocalyptic world were precious. Who would be willing to trade everything they had for points? The three of them wandered for about half an hour and only bought some mutated meat and mutated vegetables. The most notable purchase was managing to get a watermelon. Ding Xiaoming was adamantly against buying it. Her space was already overflowing with watermelons, and this one cost a full 50 points. Unfortunately, she alone couldn't withstand the persistence of the two. They all agreed it wasn't expensive. Ding Xiaoming knew they thought the weather was too hot and wanted her to cool off. After so many years of the apocalypse, they worried it wasn't easy for a girl like her to earn points, and it was rare for her to get fruit. After all, fruit really was too expensive now. Ding Xiaoming wanted to explain, but she didn't know how to prove that she truly didn't lack watermelons to eat. Could it be that even the vest with spatial abilities will have to be exposed? This question lingered until the three returned to the small villa in Area A. Qi Xiaodao, who had been waiting at home for the three, was nearly asleep on the sofa. Yi Luonan sat in a wheelchair by the door, pondering what kind of person Ding Xiaoming was. He thought for a long time and still didn't see the three return. When Ding Xiaoming first reached the villa entrance, he saw Yi Luonan sitting there. He was on a chair, and in the blazing sun the hem of his black coat hung down beneath the seat. Perhaps because of his darkness-type ability, a chill radiated around him, and despite the sweltering weather he still wore the coat. The coat's hem fluttered softly in the breeze, showcasing his exquisite taste in clothing and his quietly captivating figure. His gaze was deep, conveying both confidence and coldness. In that moment Ding Xiaoming clearly felt that this was a dangerous man. When he turned toward her she felt her heart race. His eyes seemed to see through her soul, and she felt her vulnerability laid bare. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, as if mocking her little feelings. His laugh was low like a devil's whisper, sending a chill down her spine. She didn't know what was happening, but she took a deep breath and realized she had become tightly bound to this man. She stepped closer to him. His shadow intertwined with hers, displaying a dangerous, alluring charm. She couldn't help wanting to draw near, aware that she might find her place in his world. This was the first time she had seen such an alluring man, but she could feel that she would be deeply attracted to him. His breath and appearance were full of a cunning and eerie charm that intoxicated the senses. Yi Luonan watched the woman approaching from outside the gate. She strolled through the courtyard, her hem lightly fluttering in the breeze. Her presence seemed to add an indistinct, transparent and formless element to the air, giving off a remote and serene aura. Her face is fresh and pure, her features delicate and elegant, inevitably bringing to mind the serene and refined orchid. Her hair is like the pale green leaves of a paulownia, draped over her shoulders. Sunlight falling through it turns into streaks of gold. She is not only striking in appearance but also exudes a faint, watery, ethereal beauty that irresistibly draws people to her. Without words or subtle gestures, by virtue of a cool, calm and quiet temperament, she makes those around her feel a sense of peace and ease. She seemed like a clear stream flowing quietly. That ethereal beauty brought pleasure that was ineffable. Her expression was like a pool of water, clear and calm, as if a fairy had descended to the mortal world. The looks they exchanged, the admiration and fluttering in their eyes for each other, did not escape Tong Guanyue's and Jiang Hao's notice. The clothes Ding Xiaoming had been wearing before weren't this outfit, but the one she had on when she went to buy vegetables just now, after hearing Tong Guanyue mention that there was a third younger brother at home. Because of her supernatural ability, she could only sit in a wheelchair for the time being. She had meant to warn Ding Xiaoming not to be too startled when she saw Yi Luonan. Ding Xiaoming felt she shouldn't be too rude when visiting someone else's home, so she quickly washed her hair and took a shower after returning to her lodging, then changed her clothes. When Tong Guanyue and Jiang Hao first saw Ding Xiaoming dressed like this, they were both stunned by her. Seeing the way she looked at Yi Luonan now was not surprising, and they had already grown used to the expression women wore when they first met Yi Luonan. They just hadn't expected these two to be so attracted to each other upon their first meeting. They felt a little jealous, but also thought it made perfect sense. They really didn't have to be like this. Their first meeting with Ding Xiaoming was the same. Chapter 49. The Century's Big Scandal. When Ding Xiaoming realized her loss of composure, she and Tong Guanyue and Jiang Hao had already approached Yi Luonan. Although she felt a bit intimidated by Yi Luonan, she couldn't help wanting to get closer to the alluring man before her. Ding Xiaoming also couldn't clearly describe what kind of feeling it was in her heart. She didn't like being too passive. Before the two people beside her could introduce themselves, she smiled and generously reached out her